Perrin Kerns. Anything to avoid finishing writing 5 pages. I think I inserted this at the end because I was a little short. And I didn't know what a black moon was until this one New Year's Eve in 2024. And this just dropped out of the sky. The starry night of the black moon, northern lights from your living room. It's all these things and 1,000 more that haunt my dreams, slipping through my door. Shadow's edge, I can feel your light as the words we said turn to birds in flight. And it's inside out, and it's upside down. You can leave your doubt at the lost and found. If you read my mind and you feel my heart, I wonder what you'd find in the waning dark. If I break away from the gravity, will the light of day be enough for me? Starry night of the black moon, northern lights from your living room. Thank you. And now, Mike.
I just have to do another plug for Janice Carper. She's the most prolific, pure artist that I know.
Wow.
In every media, songs, multimedia, art, collage, paintings, everything. So it's just a pleasure to work with Janice, and you can go find her music. How many albums?
I don't know.
38. At all the places. So with her Janice Carper, she's an inspiration to me and so many of us. Okay, here we go. Here's our final crap talk. What I do is, after we know who's going to be teaching at Summer Fishtrap, I go back and I say, hey, if you're interested in doing something else, like being on a panel or doing a bird walk or doing a craft talk, things like that. We started with Karen Aubin, and was one of the first ones to say, yeah, I'll do a craft talk with Laura and Anna Maria. And then I think the next person to jump in was Karen and say, yeah, I'll do a craft talk. And then I think like a half a cup of coffee later or something like that, wrote back, Kim wants to do it too. Kim wants to do it too. So they're doing this as a tag team. I'm just going to read this. You have it in your program, but I just wanted, for those of you who want a refresher, taking the personal political with Perrin Kerns and speak poetry to power with Kim Stafford. What can a writer do to address a big political mess? What's the place for short stories, essays, poems in a turbulent historical landscape? Both writers will share texts and give prompts for writing in difficult political times. Please welcome Kim and Perrin.
Janice, thank you.
Every workshop should begin with a song.
Also, you can see what we mean about Janice being such a good writer. She wrote that song, so she's a very good writer. Today, we're going to tag team it. I'm going to do something, and then Kim's going to do something. We are going to ask you to write, so if you need paper, we brought some extra. Anybody need some paper to write? So, Kim and I, when we were talking about this, we were like, we view all creativity as an act of resistance or as a political act, basically. But we're just going to talk a little more particularly. I will start by telling you a little bit about the personal is political and that phrase and where it dates from. If you've ever read Virginia Woolf's Three Guineas, she definitely was one of the women in the modernist movement who made it clear that women's lives that were kept in the personal sphere or thought of as non-public were very political, right? The personal sphere was political. It was determined by the society around it, and the women were living out what had been determined for them. So, and then that became the battle cry of the feminist movement, really. The personal is political, saying, you know, what happens in the home is intimately related to what happens in the larger government. In terms of the hierarchies that are established in the home, in terms of who does what work, etc. So, and I will also just say one more thing about me and my background is that I'm a modernist, which means I study people like Virginia Woolf and Zora Neale Hurston, James Joyce, Ezra Pound, people like that. And for them, coming out of World War I, they were sick of the hierarchies that had been established, and they really thought the way out was through innovative forms of writing. So I'm going to start with a quote that is not in your handout, but I'm going to read it anyway because I didn't put it in your handout, but found it later. For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, meaning writing the way that everybody always writes won't dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. Racism and homophobia are real conditions of all our lives in this place and time. I urge each one of you here to reach down into the deep place of knowledge inside herself and touch that terror and loathing of any difference that lives here. See whose face it wears. Then the personal, as the political, can begin to illuminate all our choices. And that's Audre Lorde. So what she's saying is that each within us, we understand this fear of difference, and we need to really examine it. So I'm going to just talk about three things in terms of writing that is political in my view. And the first one is the idea of stepping into silence. And I have some quotes from writers about this. Alice Walker. A writer is someone who goes to find where the silence is and tries to understand why the silence is there. Ursula Le Guin. One of the functions of art is to give people the words to know their own experience. There are always areas of vast silence in any culture, and part of the artist's job is to go into those areas and come back from the silence with something to say. Kathy Caruth. Witnessing is the attempt to speak that which refuses meaning making, refusing to be silent in the face of the unsayable. And then finally, I have one other quote by Audre Lorde. And when we are afraid, our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak remembering we were never meant to survive. That's from Audre Lorde. I'll read that again because I kind of fumbled it. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. So go to your page with the prompts, which is page 3. And I'm just going to ask you to write into your silences or a silence in the culture around you. And a way to start would be, what did you talk about around the dinner table when you were a kid, and what didn't you ever talk about? You could write a list of those. What are some silences in your life now that you could write into? Add to the list you started and choose one off those lists and write for just about 3 minutes. Yeah, I didn't put my phone up there. Oh. So you're writing into silence. If you came in late, the prompt was to write a list of silences in your life and write into it. And I'm going to give you a few more minutes. Okay, why don't you find a place to stop? And I just wanted to say, I meant to start by saying there have been so many incredible, brave writers in the world who write about these silences, and many of them are sometimes executed or imprisoned around the world. So writing is a brave act. I, many years ago, had read books by Ken Saro-Wiwa, and he was in Nigeria. He got killed, and later Chevron fessed up to that they had sent the people to kill him because he was writing in opposition to Chevron. So there's just a lot of brave writers around the world. So right now I'm going to ask you to be brave and turn to two people near you and just read what you wrote. Whatever it was. You can just talk about it too. Just what silence.
Either read it or tell it.
Read it or tell it. Just the silences that came to you. Should we trade off from what we do now?
No,
I
let's
think keep going.
go through your stuff.
Okay. You tell me when you should stop.
We'll be able to tell.
What?
We'll be able to tell.
You have more paper you take care of?
Do more people need paper?
Maybe we can go in and, yeah, more people
I
need
go
paper.
get some papers.
Yeah. But what do you think about my name? At the front, because it's writing a lot. It's just really exciting.
You have another one?
That sounds very good.
Do you see people needing paper?
Yeah, some ladies were running around looking for paper. Should I stop them now? Okay, let's pull it back together. Um,
I'm gonna just move this a little closer so that you
Okay.
don't have to yell.
okay. Let's pull it back together a little bit. We got more paper if people need more paper. If anybody needs paper, come get it. Thank you guys for jumping in there. I'm going to talk now about my second idea about writing as political, just in its nature, which is that we write the body, and it's important to write the body. I'm going to read some of these quotes. The artist's role is to demolish the deceptive image of history as an abstraction, as an ideological and/or statistical administrative picture in which death becomes invisible by bearing witness to the body. In a civilization where murder and violence are already doctrines in the process of becoming institutions, and where the executioners have gained the right to become administrative managers, the artist is by vocation freedom's witness, in that he testifies not to the law, but to the body. That's from Albert Camus. Then I'm going to jump down to Marie Howe's quote, the end of her poem, What the Earth Seemed to Say, 2020. There's an extra to say. It can end now, but not in the way you imagine. You know the mind that has been talking to you for so long, the mind that can explain everything. Don't listen. You were only a citizen of the country called I don't know. Remember the boat that brought you there? It was your body. Climb in. So this goes back to the master's language that Audre Lorde was talking about, is that a lot of the language we're delivered in our lives, the non-literary language, is covering over a lot of truths about our bodies and about people's bodies who don't have the right to enter that language. So part of the writer's role is to, or part of literature's role, is to reinsert the body into our perspective on the world. You could say also reinsert the unconscious, because Freud was a master of bringing us the idea that we're strangers to ourselves. So within us, we have the victim and the executioner, so we don't have to other others, right? We are the other to ourselves. So, and part of this idea of writing the body is that literature brings birth to that kind of unconscious dream body world. So the prompt I'm going to give you now might seem a little off of that, but we're going to go to the free write number 2 on the third page. And this, I just want you to think about a story that you're carrying or that you've been circling in your writing this week. And I want you to perhaps, if you have a full page of paper, put that story in the center of a page. And I want you to make a mind map where you draw together other narratives that you could attach to that narrative that might have to do with your own body or other people's bodies that can't represent themselves. So, yes. Say I'm writing about my dad who was gay in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and I put him in the center. I might also start drawing to that the story of Stonewall, the riots, or the story of Matthew, what was his name that was killed? Matthew Shepard. Or I might put over here the attack on trans people in the Army right now, right? Just drawing other people's narratives or bodies to your narrative. Does that help, Elena? Yeah. Broaden out your gaze beyond your own story into the larger narrative. Okay, you probably have a bit of a mind map going there. So just turn again to your two people and just talk about it, or you can show it to them, or just talk about what came to you. And if nothing came to you, say why you were befuddled or whatever. And maybe they can think of something for you, other narratives that could come in. Another few minutes. I have it set for 4, but we'll do till 3. And should I talk about experimental? Let's not talk about that. I'm already bizarre.
I don't think we want to go much longer than an hour
Yeah,
before I freeze.
yeah. So Elena and I are going to skip back to my parents' house.
Okay.
When we take our car. And then we don't have to be back till. Ron and Colleen have to be back at 5. They'll be dinner here, so let's just eat here. Yeah. Go stand in the back line
Sure.
to get more.
Anything you want to do? Do you have another layer?
I have this. I could zip it up.
You'll stop on that one. You'll stop on and close this up.
Well, I'm gonna stay. I'll stay.
No, you don't. You can go inside if you want.
No, it's okay. We can have a discussion. Discussion after you do.
They're really into it. It's good.
There's like a man that must be pregnant. What?
Yeah.
So if I hadn't thought of them. I know. But it's kind of, they're just kind of saying, what did you dust? Oh, no, you can't. Oh, this is just. Well, let's do that, and then you can put your. Should I stop them?
Still seem to be intent.
Okay, how are you doing? Can we bring it back together? I'm going to turn the I'm going to turn it over to Kim now. We think it's pretty cold out here, so we're going to try to finish up in an hour.
Okay, so I could see stories flying around out there. I think this idea of starting with sketching and connections, and oh yeah, this story is part of that story, and pretty soon you have an essay in progress, or a poem, or a series of poems. I want to start with an account of something I learned that really charged my mind about this. After the end of apartheid in South Africa, Desmond Tutu and others had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. How can we bring this country back together? And one of the things they did was to identify 4 kinds of truth. 4 kinds of truth. And the first was what they called forensic truth. This would be photographs, documents, eyewitness accounts, facts on the ground. The kind of truth that everyone would say, yeah, that's what happened. And then there was the next one, personal truth. So the first one is, this is what happened. Personal truth is, this is what happened to me. So an individual tells their story of their suffering, their encounters, their wounds. So what happened? What happened to me? And then third, they called community truth. This happened to us. This is where the village or the family or the community comes to an understanding of what happened. It's the fourth one that really intrigues me. They called the fourth one healing truth. And this is where someone has made a song, has made a poem, has made a story, has made a film about what happened to us. And this is where we get to literature. So at Fishtrap, I think we do all of these. We talk about facts of the natural world, a field guide. This is what we see, this is what we hear. And this is my story within that. And then this is our story. And then finally, a text that can go forth and connect people and heal community and save a landscape, a peace treaty. So we're starting local and then reaching toward healing truth of literature. So I want to start with a poem from the Tang Dynasty around 750. This is a political poem by Du Fu, and it touches on some of those things. So Du Fu: it is not that I lack the desire to live beside rivers and among hills, hearing the wind scatter leaves, watching the rain breed fish. But the thought of disproportion in public affairs, I love that. The thought of disproportion in public affairs offends my sense of rhythm and disposes me to expend the passion that normally takes form in song and painting. In other words, an ordinary life, you would be watching these beautiful things and you'd be making beautiful things. Disposes me to expend the passion that normally takes form in song and painting on matters of administrative interest. Let's say, so under protest, I will address the political. Under protest. Knowing that all things have their intrinsic nature, I imitate the whale that perpetually aspires to change the currents of the sea. Torn by contradictory doubts, I drink deep. So, here's someone crying out from 750. There's chaos around, this is a time of just extended warfare in China. And Du Fu was often on the road, and he had great compassion for the sufferings of the people. And he's saying, with reluctance, I address the political. Well, some of my students, I think I mentioned this before, some of my students say, it's just too chaotic, I'm paralyzed. It's just too weird. I'm wounded by what's happening. I can't write. We have to write. There's so much material to write about. So I want to read just a couple examples. And some of these prompts will do, some of them I'll just give you, you can do them at home. One response is, what is happening besides politics? That's one thing, one way to address the political. So this is a poem called While We Speak of Politics. Was that a blur of hummingbird? While we speak of politics, the air glimmers bright with pollen. While we speak of politics, two goldfinches flash their wheel from shadows into sunlit slant and gone. What is real beyond one miracle? Another. Sunset ravishes the sea, seething yellow into crimson as our voices fade. Dusk velvets the pines. From their heap of briar, small birds sound their intricate silver chime. So one way to cheer ourselves up from politics is to write about beautiful things, sustain the beautiful. This too is resistance. This is sustaining the activist. You know, prevent burnout. Okay, another way is to, this is really catty, to take a word or phrase from the political fray and turn it into a joke. So this is one example. I heard the phrase, joint session of Congress. I started thinking, oh. After a few tokes, it all began to change. Mitch cracked a joke from the Kentucky hills to break the ice, and Chuck told his version from the Catskills that made everyone hoot and holler. Blue smoke rose, and someone flicked on the disco light that made Ted sing a corrido he'd learned in Laredo. He became a harmless uncle then, and that made Marco cry. As Nancy got them all in order to learn her favorite line dance, boy, girl, she called out with a giggle. As from the gallery, the Marine Band poured down New Orleans jazz, and they all let the good times roll. So this is cheering yourself up with the catastrophe. Okay, I'll read one more, and then we're gonna write one. Another phrase I came across was moderate Republican. Moderate Republican. So I wrote a field guide to the species. Republican moderari. Conservation status endangered. Keystone species. Identification marks, civility, curiosity, virtue, ability to entertain symbiotic relations, exhibiting variant traits within a collective profile, known to thrive in diverse niches, alpine, urban, coastal, riparian, increasingly rare across its original range, threatened by an invasive subspecies now dominant in most prime habitats. Though data is limited, recent surveys suggest scattered local populations are often found in hiding, increasingly nocturnal, due to attrition when exposed. Top priority for reintroduction to multiple environments to restore the overall health of the fragile global biosphere. So this a phrase I kept using in my class was when a poem would really get going, this writer is having fun. And even when you're writing about a dark thing, to have fun is a sustaining principle. Okay, let's try one now. This is where you write your own news piece. You take something that has happened and you write your own version of it. So this is State of the Union. This reporter wonders, maybe I missed something. Was there mention of the Union? Was there some attention to unity? Maybe I missed the part about gratitude and hunger and the struggle to get by. Maybe I missed the yearning to breathe free reference, or the part about how Earth is our only home, and only community can make us great again. I know it went long. Maybe there wasn't time to say how hope in the hearts of young people is our most precious resource. What shall we do about that? Okay, let's just think of a recent story about politics, war, some drastic action, and write your own news account. So AP, your byline. And then you describe what happened. The surreal version, the fantasy version. What do you think? Yeah, I think I should share it. Should I do it on my own? Let's take a few more moments. This exercise is a little bit in the spirit of The Onion. I don't know if people read The Onion. And the way they do it at The Onion is they all sit in a room and they make up headlines. And when they get a good headline, then they go write the story, just from scratch. So they're sitting around and one of them says, how about free-range chicken makes it to Bolivia? You know, and then they go write the story. So this is one thing to do to lighten your mood would be to write some headlines you would love to read. And then go ahead and write the story. Okay, I'm going to do one other one and then we'll share. And this is to imagine an outrageous action that you could do to make change. And I have an example here. It's the poem called One Way to Make Change. When he was single years ago, my Anglo friend Jack wrote to L.L. Bean to say, my wife and I are black, and we don't see black folks in your catalog. Would it be okay if we ordered a sweater anyway? A letter came back that said, our models are from here in Freeport, Maine, where there aren't many black people. But yes, please order a sweater. The next season in the catalog, both a black woman and a black man smiled straight at Jack as he leaned easy in his rocking chair, pondering what next action he might undertake to nudge the world. So let's just imagine an action. It could be something very small, but it would enter you into the activist identity. Could be a very small thing, very local. Let's just write a little description. I'm going to have mercy on you and prepare to wrap this up. Why don't you you just have some beginnings. We realize we didn't give you a lot of time to write, but these are some seeds to take along. If you could turn to someone near you and just either read or tell about what came to you. Some of them are reading, most of them are talking.
Why don't I go get our food so when people come up to talk to us?
I gotta get inside.
You want to get inside?
Yeah.
Are we going to open the question?
Oh, shall we?
Discussion?
Yeah, good idea.
Come on over.
Yeah, okay.
We should give we should ask Naomi for examples of poems that don't mention diversity,
Oh, yeah, good
and
idea.
then use that as a prompt.
Yeah. I have a poem I want to read at the very end.
Okay. Before questions?
No, after.
Okay. I'm telling Ron to meet us at 6 instead of 5 because we have till 7:30. Just give us more time. And in the morning, we can just get up and pack. Right?
I guess so.
And then come to overnight. I don't think anybody will be here.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. And then we'll go maybe Rich, hike the Joseph Trail and then see Rich and see the show.
Is nothing else happening in the morning? Just the open
Just
mic?
reading.
Good.
Yeah.
I think people realize this is getting close to the end. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
Connect.
Some people are leaving.
Yeah.
Rochelle had to leave. He told me that Rochelle has a big book coming out about being an amputee. She has an amputated leg. It's weird. And then also about some woman that was a compatriot to Emerson. He said she's in the English and the ecology department at her little college.
Let's take a few more moments. Are you going to invite questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I must say you are an intrepid class. My hat is off to you. Oh, yeah. Any thoughts, questions? I have a poem I want to end with, but any thoughts, questions? Yeah, please.
I'm curious to what extent writing political content or adding it to your work, does that change where it goes or where it could land? Or is, I'm just
Yeah. Well, I I take the easy way out. I just put them on Instagram and walk away. And people comment, and I don't comment back. You know, they're just, I'm like the cottonwood tree. I'm just sending out, you know, the little fluff. But I love the idea. There's a friend of mine in Bend who every Wednesday at 3 o'clock she stands on Bond Street and hands out poems to anyone who's walking by. Or some people just put them in every little library when they take their walk. Post them in front of their own yard, put them on the bulletin board, leave them at the laundromat. One of my favorite ones is put them in the pockets of all the coats at the Goodwill, you know, and then there they go. Just to, you know, I call it secret publishing. Put things forth. You know, if you want to find, you know, send it to The Nation. I mean, there's some magazines that really will put it out there for you, but there's a long wait involved, and then time passes and it's not as pertinent. So there is a thing, Rattle Magazine has, if you write a poem in response to a news account, send the poem in along with the URL of the news account, then they pay money, you know, if you win. And you're part of a conversation there. I mean, sending to a magazine is mostly being in conversation with the editor, and eventually Rattle Magazine.
I was going to add that most the modernists had to self-publish. So Virginia Woolf started her own press so she could publish what she wanted to. Ulysses had to find really brave people, James Joyce, to publish Ulysses. So a lot of those writers, we think of them as mainstream, but they weren't, and they were having to self-publish. So nowadays, you can't self-publish. So if you're writing something really radical and you can't find a publisher, of course it's dangerous now. These are dangerous times.
Walt Whitman, let's put him in there. He not only published his own book, he wrote his own reviews. You know,
Yeah,
those will go the distance.
He self-published that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me have a little benediction here. One of my students, who's a counselor, taught me what she called the furthering response. And this is where to keep the conversation going rather than you can't say that or I disagree. So this is called New House Rules. In order to get beyond impasse, Congress has replaced debate with a listener's furthering response. You sound upset. I see. That makes sense. Tell me more about that. I'm sad to hear your pain. Let me see if I'm understanding. How does this make you feel? Have you felt this way before? Say again what you just said. I need to understand. How can I help? Let's live like that. Thank you, writers.
Ooh, I'm cold.
Let's go get